Imagine, it's 3 a.m. The world sleeps, but you're in the middle of a trial. Your brain just reopened a cold case. That conversation from 6 years ago. Yes, that one. The one where you slipped that ridiculous sentence, and now it's the autopsy. You analyze every word, every silence, every micro-expression of the other person with one certainty: they're still judging you. Spoiler alert, that person forgot you existed 2,190 days ago. This isn't just rumination, it's a systemic bug in your self-image. Let's be honest, it's also pure anxiety. But in reality, something much more twisted is happening. This midnight cinema is intimately linked to your desperate attempt to control the past. Most people think replaying a conversation is about the other person, as if we're playing profiler to guess if they secretly hate us. But the truth is elsewhere. The other person is just an extra in your own self-contempt. You don't replay the scene to understand. You replay it to rewrite it. You're trying to become, through thought, that version of yourself who would have had the perfect comeback, the ideal timing, the unbeatable aura. That's where the pain becomes physical. It's impossible. That moment is fossilized. You are a prisoner of the version of you that existed at that precise instant. And strangely, it's never your worst horrors that you relive. It's the small faults. Those moments where you were a bit too enthusiastic, where you laughed too loud, or stumbled over a simple word. These details become monsters because they're proof to your brain that you aren't yet the superior person you aspire to be. Your mind is obsessed with this performance gap. Psychologists confirm it. We ruminate when there's a crash between our reality and our tyrannical ideal. In fact, you're trying to bridge a gap that only exists in your imagination. You're repeating the script of a you that never existed. And that's where it gets tragic. Every time you replay this scene, you don't remember the reality. You remember the last time you remembered it. Human memory is a dishonest film editor, not a surveillance camera. It reshapes the story with every single viewing. You redo the lesson, you self-flagellate, you restart the loop. Result: insomnia and exhaustion. It's a vicious circle that leads only to self-destruction. Those who relive things the most aren't those who want to progress. They are those who want to control. And I say this with empathy, because I've been the judge in this court. By looping, you're trying to save your brand image. You're trying to... This conversation you've looped 100 times is no longer the original version. It's a version polluted by your current insecurities. In other words, you're torturing yourself for a movie that you yourself falsified. Think about it. The scene you're imagining right now is 1,000 times worse than reality. You've amplified your stumbles and invented looks of contempt from the other. Your brain manipulates you with your own memories. I know what you're telling yourself, but I'm replaying the scene to learn, to be better next time. It's the perfect excuse. It looks like personal growth, but it's an ego lie. There's a chasm between reflection and rumination. Reflecting is extracting the lesson, closing the file, and moving on. It has an end. Ruminating is rereading the same page hoping the ink will change. Rewriting the past is a suicide mission, but your brain didn't get the memo. It keeps digging, convinced that a 101st analysis will finally give you the magic key. But it gets worse. By doing this, you're training to be someone else. You're practicing a version of you that's smoother, more charismatic. And every time you do that, you send a violent message to your subconscious. We end up believing we must be perfect to have the right to exist socially. We convince ourselves that one slip-up is a life sentence. Researchers have shown that this lack of self-compassion creates chronic anxiety spirals. The less you forgive your humanity, the more your brain punishes you. You become your own predator. The court never closes, and you are the only prisoner. You reinforce the belief that your real self, the one who was there in that conversation, is trash. That's the paradox. The part of you that wants to protect you is actually executing you. It builds an evidence file against yourself, accumulating proof that you are fundamentally unworthy or defective. And here's the direct consequence of this repeated mental sabotage. The real tragedy isn't that you were awkward 6 years ago. It's that you let those 10 seconds become your identity. It's that you took an insignificant detail and made it the label of your soul. Ask yourself, what if these conversations haunting you aren't actually representative of who you are? What if they loop because your brain senses a casting error? Your brain knows this awkwardness doesn't fit the global story of your life. It desperately tries to resolve this anomaly. It doesn't fit, I must dig deeper. But the solution isn't in the analysis, it's in letting go. You must stop letting a 3-minute interaction dictate your self-esteem. Maybe it's time to realize that the energy you lose reliving these ghosts is energy stolen from your present. These are seconds you aren't giving to the people who love you today for real conversations you could be proud of tomorrow. A conversation is just a moment in time. It predicts nothing. It reveals no fatal flaw. It's just the testimony of your imperfect humanity. You were doing your best with what you had, and that's enough. It has always been enough. The person from 6 years ago didn't have your current maturity, nor your hindsight. They couldn't do better. So turn off the projector. Leave those memories in the archives where they belong. Imperfect, awkward, and magnificently human. If this message helped you calm the storm, but why are so many of us suffering from this specific torture? It's no coincidence that our generation is the hardest hit by this judgment insomnia. We grew up in a culture of invisible performance, where every social interaction has become a data point, a score, an indelible trace. We were taught that we had to be flawless, branded, always showing our best side, as if life were one permanent LinkedIn profile. The result, our brains developed a visceral fear of imperfection. We no longer forgive ourselves for simply being human, because we've come to believe that a mistake is a fatal security breach in our social system. This constant pressure has created a very specific kind of mental exhaustion. We don't just live our days, we edit them in real time, and we end up spending our nights regretting the scenes left on the cutting room floor. It's the malady of the century, the inability to be vulnerable without feeling like we're in danger. This demand for perfection didn't just fall from the sky. It's the symptom of a specific generation, trapped between unrealistic expectations and a digital world that never forgets. If you recognize yourself in this analysis, you absolutely need to understand how your generation was programmed to self-sabotage. I've made an entire video on the complex psychology of millennials and why they are the world champions of this performance anxiety. Why do we have this pathological need to optimize everything, even our memories? Click on the video appearing right here to discover the flip side of the coin. And don't forget to subscribe and like if you want us to keep exploring your brain's bugs together. I'll see you over there. See you in a second.